Hey there. I didn't see you standing there. I apologize. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today, we're going to take a look at not World War II, not World War I, but the Civil War. Specifically, we're going to take a look at the 1860 Light Cavalry Saber. Now, I've got two examples of this saber. This one in my hand without the scabbard. This guy is dated 1863. And then I've got this guy here that actually still has the scabbard. This is dated 1864. Both of these are authentic and original pieces from the Civil War era. I've had this one for a while. This is actually the first one I got. The blade is in a little bit nicer condition as far as pitting and rust and whatnot and marks on it. It's got a few dings along it, but I picked this up off eBay probably 6 years ago or so. And then this guy here I actually picked up for super cheap, even though it didn't have the scabbard. I got this from an old friend back home, rest in peace Tim. He owned a Army surplus store, and he had such a crazy collection, and he very rarely let stuff go out of his personal collection, but I was lucky enough to get this from him a little bit before he had passed. So this one's got a little bit of meaning to me, just because of where I got it. But that being said, so the 1860 Light Cavalry Saber was the replacement for the 1840 Heavy Cavalry Saber. That was a heavier and larger sword. So these guys were made to be lighter and a little bit easier to wield, especially for cavalry. So different name, different sabers, even though they look similar if you were to look at them from a distance. Both models of the 1840 and the 1860 have a brass handle with a a brass guard with a leather wrapped handle. This specific one here, you can see the leather's all gone, and in those grooves you would see like little brass wire wrapped around the leather into the grooves. So that guy is completely just wood, no leather whatsoever. And this guy, the leather is rough. Excuse my cat running around. He's not cooperating with me right now. So you can see there's a little bit of leather still on there, but predominantly it's cracked and missing in certain spots, and there's no brass wrapping around that either. But again, that is a brass guard with a leather wrapped handle. The 1860 Light Cavalry Saber, aka the M1862, it had a 41-inch overall length with a 35 by 1-inch blade. As I mentioned before, the guards were made out of brass, and it had a leather-wrapped handle that had a little brass wire going around it to fit in those grooves. Without a scabbard, the 1860 Light Cavalry Saber was 2 pounds and 4 ounces, and with the iron scabbard, it would have brought it to 3 pounds and 10 ounces. The 1860 Light Cavalry Saber, it was used heavily during the American Civil War by the Union. These things saw use up until the Indian Wars, and even a little bit of use during the American-Spanish War. They were issued to cavalry, and then also they were used by regular infantry, and sometimes like staff officers and stuff like that. By the end of the Civil War, there was over 300,000 of the 1860 Light Cavalry Sabers made. Both of my examples were made by the biggest manufacturer of them, which is the AMES company. Out of those 300,000, they made about 200,000. 32,000 were made by Robbie, and many more were made by companies such as Tiffany & Co., Glaze, Justice, and Emerson & Silver. Like I said, AMES definitely made the bulk of them, and both of these examples are AMES, and I'll show you the maker's marks and the dates on them here in just a second. So you can see here, this blade definitely has a lot of like little rust spots and pitting on it, but there's really no dings or any damage on the edge of it, and some sort of stain there. Couldn't tell you what that is, but let's see if we can see here. So this guy says US. It's got the inspector mark on it, DR, and you can see 1863 is when this saber was manufactured. Now these aren't super easy to make out, but that there, it's hard to make out the AMES part, but you can see the MFG. You can see so it's AMES, MFG for manufacturer, Chicopee, Mass. So these were coming out of Chicopee, Massachusetts. So the AMES company, like I said, they're out of Chicopee, Massachusetts, and they were known as being an iron and bronze foundry. And during the American Civil War, they also made, they were the major provider of sidearms, swords, light artillery, and heavy ordnance for the Union. And they made like bronze statues and stuff like that as well. But so this guy here, and they did use different stamps, so I'll show you the other one. It is slightly different. But this guy is an 1863 AMES. Now this blade here, you can see, this is the 1864 one. You can see there's a lot of little dings going along the edge of this blade. Now, as I've said in a couple other videos, we have no idea of knowing if that was from battle, actual sword fights, or just some kid found it in his dad or grandpa's garage and was whacking on shit with it. You have no idea. The blade itself, even though it's got some pattern, you can run your finger around it, and it doesn't have quite the same pitting that the other one does. So it's a little bit nicer as far as that goes. Now you can see the scabbard is in fairly, beat up and rough condition. It's got a little dent right here, which, again, God only knows what that's from. Let's take a look here. US, and then GWS for the inspector, and then 1864 on this guy here. And this was, let's see, the makers, or the stamp here, if we can get it to focus. This one was really hard to make out. You can kind of see the writing in there. I scrubbed on it and whatnot. The camera doesn't pick it up really well, but if you study some of the AMES maker's marks, it is one of them. Like I said, it's really hard to make out, especially with the camera and the glare. But like I said, if you look up AMES, like a history of AMES' stamps and what they were, this one is definitely one of theirs. So the banner that this represents, if you look up, like I said, if you look up their markings, it says AMES MFG Co. on that top curved banner. And then on that second banner, it says Chicopee. And then under it, in a straight one, it says Mass. So it's got two arced banners that you can kind of make out. And then that just says AMES MFG Co. Chicopee, and then Mass. The AMES family, they can be traced all the way back to 1774 with their first factory. And then it wasn't until 1829 when the surviving members of the family had moved to a little town off the Chicopee River. And then during when the Civil War actually broke out, the Union lost their all their southern arsenals. So a lot of independent manufacturers really stepped it up to produce small arms for the Union Army. And as I had said before, AMES was definitely one of the biggest to produce like cannonballs, swords, artillery stuff, all that kind of great stuff. But in the later part of the 19th century, they produced sewing machines and bike parts. And in 1881, the sword manufacturer business, it was formally separated into an independent company. And then by 1907, the AMES foundries, they were bought by A.G. Spalding Company. One thing that's noticeable on both of these examples is you can see this has been kind of hammered forward. And on this one, those two are squished together as opposed to they are not. They're supposed to be like that. So those guys have been squished together, and it's kind of hard to make out, but that's been kind of indented as well, just a little bit compared to the other one. Like I said, you can see those two are nice and separate, and those two are squished together. That's all I've got for you today. Like I said, just a quick little look at some different period pieces. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. And until next time, be good.